This is We the Sales Engineers podcast, show 196.
Welcome to We the SEs podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramsey Majaba.
What's up, SE Nation? Welcome back. I have amazing yet experimental episode, I think. So first off, I am your host, Ramsey Majaba, and this is We the Sales Engineers. In case you're wondering what you're listening to, we talk about sales engineering. And I did a LinkedIn Live back in December with Jan-Erik and Tim Brömme from Germany. One works for SAP, another one works for Seismic, I think. And they've been on the podcast before. We talked about podcasting and that sort of thing and how it's helped their career and how it's helped my career. Today, we actually talk about SE leadership and followship, I guess, if you will, where Jan is a leader, is an SE leader. Tim is a leader in his own right, but he's an individual contributor at a different company. And we talked about leadership, being individual contributors, how they work together when they did work together in the same company. So this wasn't a LinkedIn Live. The first couple minutes are spent just, having fun with each other, joking about hats and stuff. So if you don't want to listen to us, listen to our witty banter about hats and other things, you might want to skip a couple of minutes at the beginning. But then when we get into it, I thought it was a great session. I learned a lot just by talking to them. I always learn a lot by talking to them. And if you're not watching this on YouTube, just to set the scene, if you do want to listen to the first couple of minutes, Jan was wearing a Santa hat and Tim was wearing a regular Nike hat. Jan was wearing a shirt with some weird stuff on it that says no lift, no gift or something like that. Tim was wearing normal clothes. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you would enjoy more LinkedIn Lives, whether it's with other people, like I interview other people, which I already do on the podcast quite a bit, or whether you'd like solo shows where I talk about sales engineering in general and my thoughts around it and how we do things as sales engineers. Or if you want to get into sales engineering, we can cover those topics as well. So let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your input. But for now, let's just jump into the show. Oh, and there won't be an outro. We just ended on the show because we outro it on the show live. So you don't have to listen to me again on my own. I will see you in the show. It doesn't matter. We're live and now you can stop mocking me. So
we will never stop mocking you, Ramsey.
Thank you guys. So we're a bunch of sales engineers talking sales engineering, right?
Oh, we do?
So let's start talking about these hats. Do you wear them to customer meetings?
I'm not going. Yeah. I'm not going to customer meetings, so not sure. But I would. I mean, I think it's quite fun. So people seeing this, right? They're saying it's no lift, and then it's like no gift. And I think there's a similarity to what we are doing, right? Because I would say no demo without discovery. Things like that, right?
I gotta tell you, that's not where my mind went when you said that. Nice shirt. Here, we already have a comment about your shirt, man.
Thank you, Franklin. And I mean, if this is scary to you, Ramsey, I can.
Oh no, put it back.
And I told you I have more hats. This is just the usual one, but there's more stuff.
I mean, it is the 6th of December where we celebrate Nikolaus in Germany.
Yeah. What?
Nikolaus. I don't know. It's like a tradition where you have to clean your shoes as a child, and then the Nikolaus comes and brings you little gifts like chocolate and other things. Unless you don't clean your shoes, then you get like I don't know how to say that.
Cool.
You get like a punishment, sort of. No. You don't get any sweets, no gifts.
Smacking. It sounds like a smacking.
Yeah, something like that.
Right. Well, it's okay. I'm an immigrant too, so it's fine in our culture. This is devolving really quickly. For those who are watching and listening, who are you? Why are you here? Why are you wearing
because
that?
We don't know ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, Jan, introduce yourself to Tim because Tim has never heard of you.
So why I'm here? It's pretty easy because you asked us to get on LinkedIn Live with you.
Did I? I don't remember that. I blocked it out.
You did.
So,
and I'm honestly, I think you're asking for almost a year, and at some point we said, no, we need to knock it down, right? So
yeah,
here we are.
I'm persistent. I can tell you that much. So, all right. So you're an SE leader, Jan, right?
I try to, yeah.
What does that mean, SE leader? Let's get into philosophy right now.
I mean, so from a role perspective, it's a first line manager role. I think if you talk about leadership, it's pretty much about how you interpret it, right? I think managing something is like very hard skill. So having techniques and schemas and methods and processes and all that stuff to make sure it's all in shape. And if it comes to leadership, I think it's something very personal, so between humans at the end of the day, and to me also, I would even say a very emotional topic, right? Because I think leadership, or if you allowed to lead a group of people or to support a group of people, then in the best case it should be very, very individual, right? Because they are all different as humans. And I think this is one of the areas you should respect as a leader, also as a manager, that people are different and they need different things to maybe reach the same goals. Right? Is that enough philosophy at the beginning for you?
Yeah, I mean Patrick Pasang is more philosophical than you, but you'll suffice.
I mean, I can leave. No problem.
Well, hold on. I didn't tell Patrick to come, so you have to stay until he shows up. And Tim, you're an individual contributor, right?
Yes, that's right.
Last time we chatted, like we were both on each other's podcasts. We never talked about sales engineering. We talked about podcasts and stuff like that. What drove you to get into sales engineering to begin with?
I think, I mean, this is maybe a cliche answer or something, but I think it's fundamentally rooted in childhood, and I make it more tangible.
Okay.
Because what I always found was that these, I think in the US it's called like STEM topics, anything that's like science related, mathematics, these type of topics always were relatively easy to me. And this then led me to actually study a very engineering heavy thing in university. I actually studied computer engineering, which is like electrical engineering and computer science. And at the same time, I was, and still am, to be honest, a huge fan of video games, right? So I was on the one side very technically interested in everything that's happening there, and there were video games. And then I wanted to understand, okay, how does it all work together? Because there's these fancy pictures on the screen and exciting things are happening. And there's obviously a little machine that connects to the TV and it's doing all the stuff. And how does it all work? And that led me to that interest of being very tech heavy. Then, however, afterwards, after university, my first job was in an actually international company where I was first thrown into sales, believe it or not. And that was because I was partaking in like a program where you would jump from department to departments every 4 months. So it was just a coincidence that I landed in sales. And I loved what I did there. And so in the end, I became what I called the compatible nerd. So I could understand and talk to engineering people and with very in-depth technical knowledge, but on the other hand, I also discovered this entrepreneurial side in me, and so I think pre-sales is just that.
So okay. By the way, for those of you listening right now, if you want to jump on the comments and just say hello, we'd love to say hello back. Well, some more than others, I guess. Why didn't you just stay in sales?
Well, I mean, it was a program that was structured in a way where you would switch departments every 4 months. I was even abroad for some time, a couple of months in Africa. And I also went into other departments like product management and stuff like that. So at the end of this journey, so to say, it was an 18-month program, I could shape a little bit where I want to land. And funny enough, the country I went to was South Africa. So I decided, okay, the team there was awesome, was relatively small, but it was very sales focused, but they still needed sort of, they call it technical account manager at the time, but basically I was doing a pre-sales job. And I really enjoyed that there in that little time. So I said, okay, I want to do that job. So it was very sales heavy because with a small subsidiary that we had at the time, of course, new customer acquisition, first conversations with new prospects was very much on a day-to-day basis happening.
Okay. Right. And JJ, what made you get into sales, and then how did you know you wanted to be an SE manager if you actually wanted to be an SE manager? That was not a joke. That was a serious question.
Yeah, you only ask serious questions. Yeah, no worries. So I was with a mid-sized company in Germany, and I had different roles like project management, a little bit of programming and coding as well. And then I took over at some point a product development team. So we developed a product, a real like SaaS product with Scrum and all these things. And that have been like my first steps into leadership, right? And there I realized, so that topic, leadership and working with people, is really something which I love, I would say. And of course, we also had to sell that kind of stuff. So I did, I would say, sales activities in some respect. And at some point, I decided to move from that mid-sized German company to a company called Salesforce. Right?
Who's that? Never heard of them.
Never heard of
Yeah.
them. Yeah. We don't use it every day.
No worries. But like a huge SaaS company, American-driven. So a lot of new things to me, right? And there I learned, hey, there is a role called sales engineering or solution engineering. And I was able to connect what I did before in that role, right? But they had cool names for it, and there were processes and all that stuff. So I learned really a lot. And I was a pre-sales engineer when I started at Salesforce, doing discoveries, demos, working with the AEs, all these things. And at some point, I realized that I'm really missing that leadership piece, right? And then it was like, hey, pre-sales is amazing. There's a lot of stuff I can learn, I can do, I can contribute, and a good mix of different like angles or worlds, if you will. But I was missing that leadership piece. So I said, yeah, I want to stay in sales engineering, but looking for a management role or a leadership role. And that brought me to Calidus. And that brought me to the biggest mistake of my life, hiring him. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, Calidus connected Tim and myself.
Is that why you left Calidus? Because of Tim?
No, we haven't left Calidus. Calidus was acquired by SAP at some point.
Tim left.
No, not Calidus.
What in the world?
Yeah, so Calidus Cloud was an old company which then got acquired by SAP at some point. I think in 2018 or something it was. And then we basically became SAP employees by acquisition.
Yeah, but didn't you leave at some point?
I left SAP, yes.
Yeah, because of Jan. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is he left me. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Okay, so what's the difference between pre-sales leadership versus like development leadership? Is there a difference? That's for you, JJ.
So between pre-sales leadership and leadership in general, do you mean, or
like you were a Scrum Master, like you were a leader in the development world, right? That's what you said. Or did I misunderstand that?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. So it was a couple of people in different roles, like project management, development, of course. Yeah, I mean, of course, he loves Calidus. I mean, from a day to day, if you look at it from day to day, I think, of course, there's a difference because you work with different people, right? And you work in a different like area maybe, and they have different concerns and different problems and issues and feelings and all that stuff. But if I look at, like, let's say the basics I try to apply in my day-to-day leadership life, then I think it is pretty similar, right? So, for example, I truly believe that you need to deeply listen to your people. And if I say listen, I really mean listen to understand their point of view, where they are coming from, what they are concerned about, where they would like to go, and so on and so on. And I would deeply listen to a developer, and I would also deeply listen to a pre-sales engineer. But of course, the environment is different. The circumstances are different, but the basics I would try to apply would be pretty similar.
The funny thing is, the way you just described that almost sounded like the sales engineering job speaking to customers. There's a lot of similarities in that regard.
Well,
true story.
I was talking to someone who, I was coaching them, and they got the opportunity to get promoted to a management role, and they didn't want it because they didn't want to be moved away from the customers. And you had to have that mentality shift that your SEs are now your customers. It's not like now you have multiple customers. You just added one, because right now we have salespeople who are customers, customers are customers, product managers, etc. Now you just have SEs underneath that customer wing, if you will. So yeah.
We once had, it's already some time ago, a great podcast guest on our show, and he described leadership as an inverted pyramid, where he would say, okay, the leader is basically at the bottom, and then it opens up like a triangle, and the team members are on top of it, and you interpret yourself as a servant, so to say, to the team. And they dictate to you what you need to, how the way should be paved for them to do their job.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if I've worked with leaders who are not leaders, who are like, who are more bosses. Like, they're bosses. They want you to do whatever they tell you to do. Yeah. And I've worked with leaders who are like there to enable you. And I've always preferred to work with that leader versus like someone who just tells you what to do, because otherwise you don't need someone who actually thinks on their own. You just need someone to do whatever it is that you want them to do. So I don't know. I always thought it was useless to have a boss who tells you what to do. But I don't know. Do you think Jan is like that? Is he a good leader? Hey, so more importantly, Tim, you've moved a few companies, right?
I have, yes. Look, I'm happy to answer your question. I don't know.
No, I don't.
Maybe I'm going to blush. Maybe Jan's going to blush.
You work with them, and I don't want nice things to be said about them.
Fair enough.
So, have you seen difference in like the way sales engineering works between the different companies? Like, do you do pre-sales in one, post-sales in one, not and another? Difference in organization structure, whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, in my perception, most SaaS companies on a higher level interpret the sales engineering role quite similarly. I would definitely say that. But you find sometimes differences in the internal organization. I'm going to give you a concrete example, right? So without mentioning companies' names, in some of my previous employers, for example, even though it was a SaaS product, you basically could not press a button and say, here is a new tenant, here is a clean environment, you can build everything from scratch and prepare your custom demo. It was more complicated than that and was a bit of a struggle sometimes. In other companies, it's literally like that. I personally can press the button, 5 minutes later I get an email, I can sign up for it, and I have a user account with admin rights on this new tenant, and I can play with it. Okay. And then you have sort of the deluxe version where there's a whole team in the back end that is providing supporting structures, where even sort of the environments, the demo environments, are decommissioned after a time, where there's a warning and you get notifications if you maybe still need it and the deal's ongoing, or they really support you in building out demos, where there's big support structures in terms of infrastructure, but also in building out actual custom demos. There I've seen quite a big difference in different companies. Yes.
Okay.
One example. I mean, there's more to it, of course, but
I'm in the world where, and the reason I'm bringing this up is like I moved between two competitors. We're in the same world, and they both do things so differently. One had a pre-sales team and post-sales engineers to help with post-sales. Another has the pre-sales doing post-sales.
I've never had that.
Yeah,
post-sales was never part of the job description of any of the companies I've worked for.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, Jan, you've been with the same company forever, it seems. How come?
That's not true.
Well, define forever, I guess, but like you've been with the same company for a while.
For the SaaS world, I mean, I would say it's pretty long. what is it now, 5 years or so, if you include the calendars time?
No, it's over 5
Over
years.
5 years even.
It's over 5 years. Yeah.
We always look at SEs who like leave companies, go to separate companies. That's pretty much sometimes the only way to get salary raises. What would entice someone to stay within one company for a while? Why would it be better for their career if it is better?
So I'm not saying it's better, right? I mean, I did a couple of moves already before that acquisition of SAP, where I were able to get like different kind of experience and all these things. And maybe I didn't have like the typical start you would have today. So I did an apprenticeship, for example, and then I stepped into actually working for companies. So there was no study or university for me. So I was pretty early used to, I need to do something, right? To be able to create something. So that was my path. And even being a long time with the same company doesn't mean you're doing like the same job for that amount of time. So you can have multiple roles, you can expand your role, you can redefine your role. I think there are always multiple possibilities. And I think, so you mentioned, for example, the salary, right? So maybe that's an important point to you. But in general, I think you should try to be aware for yourself, hey, what is important to me, right? And maybe salary is part of that. Maybe your direct leadership is part of that. Maybe the purpose of the company you're working for is part of it. Maybe whatever, right? And to me, that's often highly related to my very personal values. So, hey, this is stuff I really need to be happy and in balance and in shape and whatever. And I always try to then get more of that stuff, right? And if my environment at my current company is giving me that, then first of all, I'm very happy, right? So why should I change if I'm getting everything I'm looking for, right? There are always like small things where it could be better, of course. That's with every place or every company in my eyes. But what I learned is if I have awareness about who I am, who I want to be, and what do I need for myself to be happy, right? Then that's a huge step, because that puts me into a position where I can have totally different conversations with my peers, with my managers, and get much quicker what I need and what I really want, right?
I have a question for you, but for those watching on the LinkedIn Live, if you have any questions for Tim, JJ, or myself, please. I feel weird calling you JJ, but anyways, please put it in the comments. So, all right, let's get personal right now, JJ. What makes you happy? What are the criteria that you looked at that said, all right, this makes me happy, and I can choose to stay or leave based on that?
So, I mean, for me, a couple of things, right? And maybe to mention one. So, having impact is one of these things. And for me, having impact doesn't mean that I need to be on screen or on stage or somewhere. This just means that what I do within my team, my organization, and so on, really has an impact, which I'm able to see, right? Which could be, hey, people are being able to perform better. People are making or reaching their personal goals. They define it. I was able to support them, right? With, I don't know, coaching, mentoring, whatever it is, right? So that would mean, yeah, there is a high impact for me. And then if I say, so having impact is one of these values which are important to me, then I'm asking myself, how can I get that, right? And I can get that, for example, if I'm allowed to work with people, right? And assisting these people to reach their personal goals, next level, and all these things, which means to me, being in that leadership role makes sense in some respect. And I go like that, right? So I look at my values, hey, what's important to me to be happy? And another thing, for example, is, so what I need is awareness for myself. I need to be aware, because awareness me in balance, and if I'm in balance, I'm happy anyway, if you will. So I'm trying to find things around me and people around me who helping me to be like this, or to get there most of the time. And I also try to always see like the positive in all the things around me, because especially when like people around you doing things where you would initially maybe say, oh, that's crazy, and how stupid is that guy acting, bah, 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 bah. Ask yourself, hey, what's the positive intent, right? Behind that activity, behind doing this, behind acting like that, and so on. And this will allow you, in the best case, to change perspective, right? And maybe there is something really, really good and really, really positive you could leverage, right? Or you could make use of, instead of just complaining, oh yeah, Tim is whatever, right? A bad guy, and I don't like him. I mean, where will that lead you if you only complain about people around you and all these things happening? Because, and maybe that's also part of the story, I think the circle of influence you have as an individual is much bigger than most of the people would believe by now, right? And like, seeing it that way, there are a lot of like possibilities for myself. There are a lot of meaningful conversations, and there are a lot of like opportunities, right? I find each and every day, and I can always decide if I would like to follow or not, right? Maybe that gives you an idea.
No, that's good. Well, you talked about awareness. At least you're aware of what makes you happy and what doesn't. And a lot of us would just live through life and, this is life. I'll just, go through the motions. Franklin asked a great question, but I'm not going to ask it right now. I'm just going to follow up with Tim. What makes you happy? What are the criteria that you're looking for in a role, in a life?
Before I answer that question, I would like to make an observation. So the way Jan just answered your question is a very good instance of why I, in 2008, decided to say, hey, Jan, why don't we do a podcast? Because you ask him a question, and sometimes he goes quite on with his answer, but it's always good stuff. So that's why we press the record button for people to actually listen to. Anyway, that was just a side note.
The rule of this podcast is no nice things about Jan, right? And
Oh,
you're
sorry.
kind of breaking it, so...
Yeah, Jan, you were rambling on. Why don't you get to your point? Jeez.
There you go.
Better? Yeah, all right.
Yeah, thank you.
So funny enough, I expected somewhat you may ask me this question. So I actually took a note. Jan said impact, which is a nice one. I'm not sure if I would put that on my top 3 if I were to do that, because for me, I think it's definitely it's success and recognition for that success. I definitely like it when we, for example, close a big deal. There's a nice number behind it. There's a nice financial incentive to it, and you get then recognized for doing a great job on a complex and challenging deal where there was maybe competition involved and stuff like that. So for me, and this comes back to why I like sales engineering, it's almost like this very complicated chess game with like 1,000 different parameters. And if you actually get all the puzzle pieces right, it leads to success. And then reaping that recognition in whatever type of way or multiple ways as an individual contributor is for me what definitely drives me. I really like that. It's maybe a bit superficial or whatever, but I like that recognition. And the other piece is, let's say, personal progress or personal development. Maybe that's a better term, in the sense of I have the feeling that I'm still learning, right? With every deal, or maybe with the product portfolio, or maybe in the way how I approach pre-sales, I'm today or am next year at the same time a little bit better than I am today. I want to work on the craft. I want to work on my creativity, on the way I phrase things, the way I pitch things, the way I show things, and I want to become better every single day, basically. Even if it's just a marginal amount, but over time it will convey into something more meaningful. And that's, if I have the feeling there's development, that motivates me, and that makes me stay with an employer.
You've heard of the concept like 1% better every day,
Yes.
Like we look at improvement and we think like, oh, next year tomorrow I'm gonna know everything, which is why we do sprints and we kind of go in and read everything under the sun, and then we don't remember any of it and we didn't apply any of it. But if we do incremental improvements, which is what you were saying. Speaking of approaches, though, this is Franklin's question. Do you want to read it, or do you want me to read it for you? Jan,
Yeah,
why don't you?
For Tim, with the added perspective from lessons learned within the Sales Excellence podcast, have you found yourself changing your approach to pre-sales as you've moved to new companies? If so, any shareable examples? Have you found yourself changing your initial approach to pre-sales? Yeah, I would definitely say so. But I feel like my answer is going to be trivial, but maybe it's not. Because in the very beginning, and what I still observe across the companies that I've been with, is that even though everyone is saying we're doing value sales and we do customer-centric sales, everyone says it, and everyone maybe even knows how to do it, but actually, do you execute on it? Do you embrace it to the last extent? And to be honest, I'm not there yet, right? I'm still not there yet, because it's just too easy to sometimes talk about the so-called unique selling features of your solution. It's too easy to talk about what great things we can do, as opposed to completely leaving the ego at the front door and actually just talking about, okay, let's talk about you, dear customer. And that is something that I certainly have not done in the very beginning of my career. And it's something that I still fall into the trap to today. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. It's a constant chess game with this complicated puzzle pieces. And this is one of the complicated pieces to get value selling right. And I need colleagues and the exchange with you guys, for example, to remind me constantly what value selling really means and customer centricity. So that is one thing that I hope has changed over the past few years and is still changing. I hope that answered the question.
No, it answers the question as I understood it. Franklin, if it doesn't, please let us know. Jan, if you're watching an SE, and you played football when you were younger. Do you still play football? I mean, there are things that we make as mistakes and we try to deviate, we try to fix, and then a few weeks later we start redoing the same mistakes over and over because it's not been ingrained in us. As a manager, what is your role in helping an SE build that habit, that memory, the muscle memory to do the value selling properly, or whatever it is that you're trying to get them to do?
So first of all, I think it's clarifying exactly this, right? So why I am here as your manager or your leader, and then also how can I best possibly support you, right? So I mean, it will end up with feedback or mentoring or coaching in some respect, but also for this, I believe there are different ways, right? And what I always try to do is ask the individual person, so what version of Jan do you need to get the best out of it, right? So do you need my knowledge? Do you need my experience? Do you need like a real coaching approach, right? So what is like the best possible way supporting you, right? And let's take, for example, tell-show-tell loops as an example, right? So when it comes to tell-show-tell loops, I explain the concept of it, right? I would never tell someone, do it like this, right? So that should be found out by the person, right? How the person would like to celebrate it, right? I mean, the concept is pretty clear how it works and why you could put it in place, but how to execute on it. There are different ways, right? I would do it in a different way than you would, and Tim would do it in another way. I'm happy to give examples because I have seen a lot of examples to it. But I believe if someone is able to, I got the concept and I agree it's valuable, right? And here's my version of TST, right? Then I would say, hey, that's amazing. You're coming up with your creativity and your way of doing it. And I would always try to support people in doing this, right? So create it your way, your style. I would maybe do it in a different way, right? But it's not your way, and my way is not better potentially. So clarifying how you would like to operate on it and act on it, and most of the time also asking for permission. Hey, do you want feedback from me right now on that topic, right? Yes, no, maybe, and so on, and then stepping into it. And my way of doing it is always appreciative, right? And appreciative means two angles. Angle number one is, let's take a look at the positive things, right? Because even if there's room for improvement, there's always something which is already nice and great, and we should talk about it. And then the second part is constructive, which means I'm not telling you, hey, what you did is shit, right? I'm saying, here's something I realized or I recognized, and it made me feel like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then I'm happy to offer like an alternative, right? And what I'm offering to me is like always like a gift, right? So I put it on the table, you can look at it and you can decide if you would like to take it or not, right? Because sometimes maybe it's the right gift, but it's not the right point in time. So, hey, keep it with you, and at some point you can open it, and then it will make sense to you. And that should be okay for the person who is providing the support, the assistance, and the feedback. So this is how I deal with it, because I think that is a crucial part if you would like to create a trusted environment and teamwork and people relying on each other and having that feeling of, here I can be myself and I can make mistakes and I get the assistance I need to grow.
So a couple of things I want to.
He was rambling again, wasn't he?
Oh, no comment. A couple of things I want to dig into though, but like there were a couple of nuggets in there that are interesting. So for me, if I want to give feedback to someone and they don't want it, that raises a red flag for me. Like if at the end of the show you ask, hey Ramsey, we did this LinkedIn Live together, do you want some feedback on it? And I say no, I doubt you'll ever get on a show with me again, because you had some input that I didn't want to hear. And big thing about sales engineering is coachability. So that's one, and I would like both of your opinion on it. The second one, you ask permission, or you ask like, hey, what style of coaching do you want? Do you think sales engineers or individuals know what type of coaching they want? Like, wouldn't they lean on your expertise to figure out what kind of persona they want the other side to be, the coach to be?
So I start with the second question. Yeah, you can take the first and I take the second. And you start with the first.
Oh, so I would agree with you, right? I mean, I think it's definitely already a matter of common courtesy. If it's not a forum where typically feedback is provided, but you want to give some, that you ask the question. I think that's quite important to that point. If the other person then says no, I tend to agree with you. However, there is certain situations, and funny enough, Jan and I, we just recently did a podcast episode on the topic of feedback, so it gave us some time to reflect on the topic. And I think there are situations where the other person can say no without having a detriment to it, because maybe the person was asking. In fact, just today I was listening to a call of one of our leaders here at Seismic, and he was talking about things that get done and things that get needed, right? And what's the overlap of that? And obviously, the higher the overlap, the better, right? Because otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels and you do stuff that is not needed. So he's talked about sharing fast and early, even though it's not perfect yet. Which then, of course, if I do that, I want feedback. But however, maybe sometimes there are situations where I'm running myself into a difficult corner here. But I think there are situations where you just want to maybe try something, maybe a certain pitch, and you want to see for yourself, but you're not at the stage yet where you say it's ready, or you want now a tremendous amount of feedback, but you're still in that development process, but still there's a sharing element to it. And then maybe it's okay also to actually say no, but that's a very specific situation, I would say. So in general, I tend to agree with you.
I mean, I understand. Like, if I'm a peer and I'm talking to someone who's a peer and they don't want feedback, I understand it. But
Yes.
if a manager is coming at me, someone who has experience,
that is a red
I would love their feedback. And I know there's a time where you're still formulating the idea in your head, and you don't want feedback at this time because you still don't have an idea. Feedback for what?
Maybe rather for asking for creative input. Right.
Yeah, I get that at some point you would ask for feedback. It's just too early on in the cycle, I guess, in the thought cycle.
That's exactly what I meant. Yeah.
And I can't remember what the second question was. Hopefully Jan remembers.
Yeah, I remember what the second question was. But to your first question, I need to add, sorry for that.
Yeah, so okay.
If I would ask you after today, hey, Ramsey, do you want feedback? And you would say no, I would say that's okay. And I would jump again with you on another LinkedIn Live. Right?
Doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, try it. So
no,
it will happen. And I mean, don't see it as a black and white thing. I think it's more clarifying on a very individual level and also team level. How do we want to deal with feedback, right? Especially when you take over a team, right? And you don't know these people, you don't know the history of these people, you don't know what happened, all these things. This is the situation where I mean, that needs to be clarified, right? Because if there is history and so on, you need to figure that out. You can't expect that people appreciate given feedback in the same way you potentially do. And I'm not saying I ask for permission all the time, but we should clarify at the very beginning. And I, as a leader, should understand what people need, right, regarding feedback. It's a highly sensitive topic from my experience. So I think it's worth spending time with it, and especially with the people. So your second question was, if I believe if a person would be able to tell me what version
what kind of coaching, yes. Yeah.
And my answer would be yes, right? Because I'm not saying what kind of coach do you need, right? I ask something like, hey, what would be the best possible outcome for the 30 minutes we have today together?
Okay.
What is the best possible way I can assist you to help you achieving your goal, right? And these can be different things, right? And I just try to offer flexibility, right? So maybe they don't, as Tim said, hey, I need someone to do a creative brainstorming, right? I don't need dedicated feedback on all these different topics because it's still brainstorming mode and I don't want to destroy it. Just freak out with me, right? And then I would say, yeah, let's freak out, right? I don't need to overthink it. I just throw something on the table, and maybe at some point the person will say, yeah, that's enough. Okay, I have what I need. And then the person's going away, and I'm like, okay, that's cool, right? And this is what I mean, right? And what Tim mentioned beforehand, so leave your ego at the front door, I think is part of that philosophy. It's not about me, and it's not about me then standing somewhere and saying, yeah, here it's Jan and ba. It's really about the person you're trying to assist. And if you really would like to assist that person or your customer to some respect, you have to understand the other person and what they're really looking for. And then you need to check if you're able to give it to them, right? Or if they're, hey, maybe that's my personal limit and I can't offer what you're asking for. Could happen as well.
To clarify the topic about like the coaching, when you'd ask like, what are you expecting to get out of this call? If they don't know, it's not like it's a one question thing, and if you don't know, we're walking out. There's follow up.
Yeah.
It's what coaching is really. It's guiding them to figure out what they need instead of telling them you need this, and that's perfect.
Absolutely. And so what I'm saying is, I'm not here to have all the answers, right? I'm not here, and I'm not the person who knows everything, right? Maybe I know less about the product we are selling or whatever it is, right? But I think raising the right questions at the right time can have an impact, because it would help people to start thinking about it and reflecting about it, and then going their way, right? It's maybe not my way, but it's their way. And because of that, it's just perfect, because they will have the highest motivation, the highest dedication to it, and they will just deliver the best possible results from my experience.
Okay. So Franklin is asking another amazing question. Thank you, Franklin, for doing my job. please show up to every live call. So speaking of saying no, that's a terrible red flag. And some nice things about us, which I'm not going to repeat. What are some other red flags that you guys see, or character traits from someone beginning in pre-sales that are dangerous to this?
It's a great question. And the one challenge I have with the question is that someone who's beginning in pre-sales, in my mind, and maybe that's my fault, is someone who's maybe relatively young, maybe early mid-20s or something like that, who's just starting out. And people like that are typically obviously still not shaped in their personality yet. There's still development ongoing, and hopefully they have a great leader that can guide them and help them flourish into a pre-sales professional. So I'm struggling a little bit to answer it specific in the scenario of someone who's a young professional working in pre-sales, because if there's a good leader, then I think it can work out in any case. However, I have found difficult in the past is working with pre-sellers that have been in pre-sales with the same company for an extended amount of time, because then all of a sudden you find, and this is not for everyone, but for some people it seems to be the case, they start to put up these how do you call them? These horse thingies
Blinders.
that cover. Thank you.
An immigrant is asking, like German and asking an immigrant about English. Perfect.
Yeah, so they struggle to look a little bit left, and they struggle to look a little bit right. And I think in pre-sales, you need to be open-minded, irrespective of where in your career you are, because the way we sell, the way companies interact with each other is changing on a so fast pace. And if you have a certain way of working, and maybe it has worked 5 years ago, maybe it has worked 3 years ago, but if you don't constantly are open to potentially asking yourself, is there maybe a better way, then that's highly challenging. And again, I've seen that more with older individuals who have been with the same company for a long time.
Okay, let me reword it. If you're interviewing someone for an entry position, is there anything that they would do that you would make me second guess picking them as the SE of the future?
I'm not going to answer that question specifically. I'm going to ask a different question, but it's in the same vein. Maybe Jan has a better answer for you. I was wondering, what traits would I look for if I were to hire someone in pre-sales?
Sure.
And one of the questions I had was, let me know, like, what are your top 10 YouTube subscriptions? What are your top 10 podcast subscriptions? And what are the last 5 books you've read? Something like that. And maybe that's a bit one-sided, because obviously I'm aiming at what is this person consuming? What type of information do they consume on a regular basis? And maybe they don't listen to podcasts, maybe they do something else, maybe they watch a TV show, whatever. But that alone would tell you so much about the person and how they're internally thinking about their own development, that it would contribute to the picture I have of the person.
Well, I'm going to ask Jan to answer both questions in a second, but let me give you an example of something that I find as a bit of a red flag, is the lack of urgency. Like, as people who are trying to get a job, whether you're brand new or later in your career, if you're trying to land an interview or land the job, you want to do things as fast as possible, do as many interviews as quickly as possible instead of pushing them out. And I've had issues where candidates would cancel on me or postpone to next week or the end of this week, where we're trying to hire someone fast. And that lack of urgency, I feel, gets translated into their job as well, where customers looking for something, a demo or whatever, and they're not urgent enough to actually, okay, let's jump on a demo call right now, or let's figure it out. I don't know. Jan, what do you think?
So I mean, I agree with Tim. If I'm interviewing people, I always try to find out a little bit more about them, right? So who you are, what is important to you, how do you live your life, what is motivating to you, what do I need to give to you that you can perform, and so on and so on. And I think it's pretty similar to what Tim said. So what would be concerning to me, and that doesn't matter if it's someone who is starting or who is in presets for a long time, if I would get immediately a feeling of, oh, he already knows everything.
Arrogance, yes.
And he has seen everything, because that's, I mean, I'm not saying it is like that. So I would try to discover that. But it would warn me or make me like very sensitive, because if if you get overconfident about something or someone or the things you're doing, then I think you're already stopping developing, right? You're stopping growing yourself, and you potentially stop contributing in the manner we are looking for. So I always try to figure out how that looks, and what are the drivers for that person. And then if I'm, as an organization and as a manager, able to provide that to the person, right? And as I said, I think there are a lot of different ways how people are acting in different areas, which is amazing, because I think if you have that kind of diversity within your organization, it's always beneficial. But if someone gets overconfident, then I'm definitely concerned, because I trust you. You're in that business for 20 years and you know what you're doing and you have seen it, right? Maybe all, but there's always tomorrow, right? And the world is moving and moving and moving and faster every day. So how do you tackle that, right? And what is motivating you, right? So
all right. How do you differentiate between being confident and knowing everything when you're interviewing someone? Because I want to show that I'm confident in my stuff.
I was about to say something similar, because in pre-sales, we still work in sales, right? If you go into customer engagement and you do your pitch in a very too modest way, in a not confident way, and was maybe it doesn't work, right? There needs to be a moment where chest out, this is the right solution for you. There needs to be a level of confidence. And I think it's a fine line between a realization that maybe I have already a good potential, but there is potential and skills available today, but there is still development upcoming, no matter whether I'm working in this position for a year or 10 years. And I think that's probably to the degree that you want, right? A base level of confidence with the realization, I will never finish learning.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it has to do with humbleness as well. And there's nothing wrong with being confident, right? And being serious in what you're talking about. And I think Q&A or feedback is a great place to figure out if someone is overconfident. So let's say you're doing that interview, or you had a panel or a pitch or whatever, and then you go into Q&A and some feedback. So just take a look on how that person is reacting to your feedback, right? So can they explain everything and why it was not a bad thing, or why they did it right and it was only the circumstance, and hey, there was Amazon ringing on the door and that was the issue, blah, 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 blah. Or are they, oh, hey, that's great, you were seeing things I wasn't aware of, and here are 3 of them I'm happy to take with me because it will help me to improve, right? If someone is saying, yeah, I'm hearing what you're saying, but I don't agree and I don't see any value and I don't think I can apply that, then I would say, yeah, maybe that person is too overconfident today and not the right fit, because no one is doing all the time everything right or in the best possible way, right? And I see that with myself every single day. So recently I went to a training where it was about pitching, right? And I thought, yeah, guys, no worries. Of course I can pitch, right? I do that for a long time. And then surprisingly, that training started and it was yeah, you need to pitch, but it's free speech. You don't have slides. You don't have anything. It's only you talking, right? So I tried to deliver my pitch. I normally deliver with slides, right? And visual support as a free speech, right? And I can tell you, I failed totally at the first try. And then we went into feedback and I was like, oh yeah, this is why, right? So the second try we had, I adopted all these feedbacks, and the feedback I got then was much, much better. I'm not saying it was perfect, right? But I was like, hey, this was a great reminder. Pitching is not pitching all the time, because free speech is another level to me, right? So if I would like to deliver the same story as a free speech, I need to change it. And that's what I mean, right?
That's interesting. You've been doing this for a while and you still know that you have a lot to learn, and people who are brand new, maybe, I guess, it takes some time for them to figure out. So I don't know if it's someone's brand new, it's a red flag because I thought I knew everything until everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. I think Michael Tyson said that.
Yeah, and this is also. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Before you go on, it's just a very simple, very quick fix to detect red flag in that sense, right? Situation is you're hiring someone, you're interviewing someone, they do maybe a demo presentation, a demo pitch or whatever. And this is also something that that Jan has taught me, where you say, before you actually give them feedback, and I like the idea what Jan just said, right? You see how they react towards the feedback that you give them. You ask them, how did you feel about it? How did you feel about it? And the way how they reflect on their own performance is going to be very telling of the character that is behind this person. Just a little interviewing quick hack, I guess.
Nice. Yeah, and you were saying something before, Tim.
No, and it's
you
going
need
into
to
the
interrupt
same
Jan at times, because otherwise,
I mean, anyway. So that's true. He's totally right. So what he's saying, I agree, and I think this is also pretty cool if you use it in that positive and constructive. You can always ask the person who pitched or whatever the person did first. So what did you like, and what would you do differently the next time? And I had a couple of months ago also an interview, and then I was like, oh, there is so much potential, right? High potential, but there are like some areas where I'm not sure about. So we went into a one-on-one, and I explained what I'm, let's say, concerned about, right? And I was just seeing how the person was reacting. And then it's again that humbleness, right? And in that case, the person was saying, yeah, you are totally right, and I was not sure how to deal with it, or how to position it, or how to bring it up. And I realized again by doing this panel conversation that I not only need to improve there, I really want to improve there, right? So having that said, yeah. Go ahead.
I have a question, because now obviously we're talking about pre-sales, and it seems there seems to be some consensus here around identifying a good pre-sales candidate in such a role, right? And I have one question. I'm going to also say what I think is the answer. Why should that apply for sales as well? Everything that we just discussed. And to be honest, I think yes. The more interesting question is the status today of where sales is being hired measuring up to the standards that we are discussing here right now? And I think the answer is no. And now comes my question, why is that the case?
Yeah, I'm the host according to you guys, so I don't have to answer.
I mean,
look, maybe there's no final answer, right? I think
we need a sales manager here.
In sales roles, confidence and chest out, and I'm the big man type of thing, woman, whatever, is being rewarded a lot more and tends to get hired more, even though more self-reflection and also realizing I still have potential to grow would also really help sales people. But maybe I'm playing into an archetype here that is actually not really true. That's why I was asking the question.
I agree. Like, I think it's the culture. It's a different culture, right? I think the SE culture is more about like you're always have to be learning technology. There's a lot of emphasis on human skills because it's not our strength, right? Our strength is usually technology for most SEs. So there's an emphasis about learning that. Whereas salespeople, and I'm just theorizing, I mean, if they're not confident, they're probably not getting the job to begin with. And they have to have that chest out. Whereas SEs, if that depends on how you act. If you're not confident, but you're showing that you're willing to learn, and confidence isn't the main trait. Like, you can get that as you learn the product, as you start selling, as you start winning. Whereas for sales, I think it might be different. I don't know. Jan, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think it depends, right? But
so it's the sales engineering answer.
Yeah, but I mean, and I think it has a lot to do with the leadership you have in place, right? And what you said, Ramsey. So what kind of culture do we want? What kind of culture we are in? What kind of culture we celebrate? And how much time we spend with hiring someone, right? And I think, I mean, I agree with Tim. I think companies could spend more time for hiring salespeople, and companies could apply I don't know, a more mature kind of process or whatever. But I also have seen companies where I think it's great. A nice interview process, a lot of thoughts put into it. That's why I'm saying it depends, right? Especially on the hiring manager who is sitting there. But yeah, in general, I would agree. I think there is definitely some room for improvement. And with that, I also need to say we shouldn't only have sales managers in the hiring process of salespeople, right? I'm always inviting sales managers to my interviews because we are in sales, of course, and I want to get their perspective, and I also want to have my candidates talking to different people within the organization before they saying, yeah, in my case, SAP is a company I consider to work for, right? So that's not only me, that's people from my team, that's sales guys, that's my manager. And I think you also should have a pre-sales person when interviewing salespeople.
All right, guys, we're 2 minutes away from the top of the hour. Considering we haven't prepared for anything for this call, I think it went great. I'm sure the people listening
let the audience be the judge
might
of that.
disagree. But hey, if you have, here's for the audience, if anybody has any feedback for any one of us, you know how to reach us and let us know what you think, and we'll gladly take that feedback and not listen to it or listen to it depending on how we feel. Any final thoughts from you guys before we leave?
No, I think this was well, I'll go first. Sorry, Jan. Thanks for hosting this, Ramsey. It was fun. Once again, very inspiring conversation for me anyway. And let's do it. Let's do it more. Right?
Yeah, we'll do it in another year because I'm gonna have to ask you for another year.
Yeah, let's do it in 12 months from now.
Right.
Yeah.
You seem like you have something to say, but you're considering if you should say it or not.
Always. I mean, as Tim said, thank you so much to you, Ramsey, for having us, and also thanks for everyone who listened.
Thank you, Franklin.
Spend time with us, especially to Franklin, I would say. And I was going to say, Ramsey, let's agree right now on another date where we can spin up another LinkedIn Live. And we can make a year from now if you want, but we can also have an earlier appointment.
How about this? Let's jump off and the broadcast because I don't think people have to listen to us looking at our calendars. We'll go from there. All right, guys.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you for hosting.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.